Raise your hand if you sometimes have trouble doing what you're supposed to do. That's right. Amen. Holy Spirit's already convicted. All right. Now, keep them up if this is true for you. If someone tells you you're not supposed to do it, it makes you want to do it even more. All right, keep them up if this is true for you. If somebody tells you you're not supposed to do it, not only do you do it, but you do it on purpose, you do it twice, you take pictures, and you Snapchat it, just so you can prove to those people who told you not to do it that you did it. All right, y'all bunch of, all right, you raise your hand. Lord, you see the hands down here. Forgive them, Lord. Bless them, Lord. Bless them. If you have trouble following directions and doing what you know you're not supposed to do, understand that you're not alone. This inability to follow directions and do what God asked us to do, it started with Adam and Eve in the garden, where God said pretty much, do whatever you want to, but don't do that. Well, it made them want to do that. When you know you're not supposed to do something, does that make it hard for you? It's like sometimes the thing that wasn't even a temptation before, now that it's been laid out that you are not supposed to do it, all of a sudden it's a temptation. Anybody with me? Who here has heard of the circle game? 1, 2, there's 4, 5. All right. If you don't think you know what it is, all right. Everybody look at this. Now, if you look, I get to give you a lick in the arm as hard as I want to. Now, kids, don't play this game. Kids, don't play. You're not allowed to play the game. If you're new to the circle game, you may have seen pictures on Facebook where people are like, I got you, and you're like, what in the world are they talking about? I've got a short video that I want to show you that's very elementary, but it will make it make sense.
Step 3. Get an unsuspecting friend to look at it. Step 4. Once they look, you hit them in the arm. This is known as a get. Step 5. The reverse get. In this instance, if the onlooker suspects foul play, he or she can attempt to break the circle with their index finger without looking at it. Step 6. If this is accomplished, they get to hit you 2 times. Step 7. The double reverse get. When the onlooker attempts to break the circle, you tighten it so that their finger gets stuck. Step 8. If this is accomplished, you get to hit them 5 times. Always remember, there are no rules as to how hard you can hit someone. When someone gets you, they can and will feel free to reciprocate the same pain that you've done to them.
Yeah. It looks like somebody made that with like a Nintendo Game Boy or something. Right? I think that's why I like it. So some of y'all didn't even know what the circle game was when you came, right? You're like, I would not have trouble not looking at that because I don't even know what you're talking about. But now that it's been laid out to you, see, look at y'all. I owe y'all about 20 lids. I can even go, listen, this side, I can even tell you, I'm getting ready to do it. I'm getting ready to do the thing, right? I'm getting ready to do it. And then, you know, I'm not looking. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look. And then suddenly do it. Oh, there you go. You just start looking, right? You can't help it. There's something about somebody telling you that you can't do something, even though you really, really don't want to do it and know you shouldn't do it, that makes you want to do it. The circle game is bad for kids. It may be bad for some adults, but some of us adults, we have some other struggles. We know we shouldn't want, yeah, there you go. If your hot sign's on, raise your hand. Yep.
Hey, it doesn't matter if the sign's on. That's just the light stuff itself.
Like you just came across the desert, you go up to the counter. I need 12 just as fast as you can get them out here. And you just drop them down, right? Almost in the same fashion they came off that belt. Like before I even take a breath, I get like 6 of them. Right? You may be a lot like me. But I'll tell myself, we go to Bowling Green, I say, I can't do that. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm on this keto diet, I can't be eating that stuff. And I'm going by, and I see the orange glare, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta go. Don't tell nobody. You know how it goes, right? Preachers like me love to give the struggling sinners like yourself, don't worry, I'm talking about me too, what we act like is the key to finding victory over your struggles with things you're not supposed to do. We do it by telling you how hot hell is. We browbeat you. We make you feel guilty that you're struggling. We tell you how fast you're even headed to hell. And somehow, some of us sometimes act like that's all you needed to hear to find spiritual victory in your life. Like somehow you should just know the right thing to do and automatically it's, okay, well, that just makes sense. It should be easy for me then, right? But you know as well as I do, because I struggle sometimes with the same stuff that you do, that sometimes it's just not that easy. It's not that simple. Sometimes one of those browbeating, pulpit-pounding messages only makes you feel bad about yourself because you can't quit sinning in your own power. I want to share with you a verse from Romans. It's in chapter 7. This is from Paul. So Paul, even though he's one of the greatest heroes of the Bible, when you read about it, you're going to find your story a lot wrapped up in Paul's. And I want to share just a few verses that kind of lays that out for us this morning. It's in Romans 7, verses 21 through 24. It says, I have discovered this principle of life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. Now, does anybody here understand exactly what he's saying right there? That it's like the harder I try to do the right thing, the more I end up doing the wrong thing. I was at an Emmaus gathering last night with a bunch of men and women and children that had been on the Emmaus for 72 hours. I want all of you to go, by the way, at some point. And don't worry, I'm going to hound you to death about it. Because it's transformational for you if you'll do it. But so many of us and them that found this complete freedom and victory on the Emmaus came back to find a devil that was awake and alive, that was swinging harder than he was when we left. You know what I'm talking about? And your life will be the same way. Anytime you try your best to put your big boy and big girl pants on, the righteous ones, the ones that keep you doing the right things, the harder you try, sometimes the harder it is to do the right thing. And Paul says, no matter how bad I want to do the right thing, it's inevitable. It's going to happen that I keep doing the wrong thing. And I don't know if I'm the only one that feels like that sometimes in my life. I'm hoping that you do too, because if you are, then we stand at the same place this morning. He says, I love God's law with all my heart. What he's saying is, I want to do what God tells me to do. I desperately want to do what he tells me to do. But I am struggling. But there's another power that is at war within my mind. This power makes me a slave to the sin that is still within me. The desire that we have to say, even though I know I shouldn't want that thing, I still want that thing and I can't help it. That's what he's saying. He says, oh, what a miserable person I am. He's feeling guilty. You ever felt guilty? Preacher ever made you feel bad about yourself? You're not good enough? And if you were just a better person, you would already have this thing figured out, but you wouldn't be struggling and stuff. You won't hear that from this one. And then he asked the question, who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? How can I find the power to move beyond this desire that keeps making me want to do the things I shouldn't want to do. He wants rid of it. He wants to quit. Whatever he's struggling with, he wants to quit. And I think if you're struggling with something this morning, I think you'll have a lot in common with this guy right here, because I think you wouldn't be here if you didn't want to do the right things. I have some balloons with me. And I'm going to pick on some old people like me. Oh, I saw a hand. Watch out there, Andy. You better be careful. It's like an auction. You get bidding on something, you might win. I need some of us old people to volunteer. Let me tell you what you're volunteering for first. We're going to have a race to see who can blow these balloons up the fastest. And I ain't all about picking somebody up that's passed out, trying to give too much oxygen away. But I'm going to bring some of y'all adults up here, if you're willing, to blow up some balloons. We're going to have a race. Now, would anybody be I'm going to draft some of y'all that I know the bestest. Right? I know it's not a word, but y'all might be mad at me at the moment, but I know you love me too much. You won't stay that way. That's why I tell Andrea jokes all the time. She loves me so much. 15 minutes after we got her, she tells me everything I should have said, and then she's over it. So, who's up? Who's up? Come on? Humor me. It's going to be a long night, a long day. You know, Andy. Yeah. You look like a pig. Here's your thing. All right. Who else is up? Come on. Come on up, James. Come on, James. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. He's coming. Tony, you in? He's in. You need to get your chair. All right.
One of those people.
I want you. All right, now are there females in the house that they want to try this? Because I don't want y'all to say, look here, he done picked all the men up there. Come on, Miss Eva. Yeah. You got coffee in one hand and blue another. All right, one more. Who's up? Who's up? Come on, I need one more. Here we go. Joyce, yeah, give her a hand. Yeah. All right. So at the count of three, before I say that, let me ask a question. Who here knows what the purpose of a balloon actually is? Like, what's it supposed to do? It's supposed to float. It's supposed to rise. Yeah, I know he knows. He knows. So it's supposed to rise, right? It's supposed to rise. So here's the race. We're going to race on the count of three. You can cheer them on if you want to. We're not going to take bets on anybody who's going to go first. We're not going to take bets on who might pass out up here trying to blow these things up. We're just going to see who can blow it up the fastest. So here's how you win. You got to blow it up, and then you got to tie. So once you have it blown up and tied, part of it. It don't matter. That don't matter. I can't quantify it. If I said, fill it to a volume of, then y'all be up there scratching your head, getting calculators out. Somebody have a ruler of what I'm supposed to do. All right, you ready? No. All the rules is you have to blow it up, you have to tie it, and then you win if you first. All right, here we go. Go. Come on, let's go. Be good. Yeah. Done? Eat up. Get some more coffee. Some people pop their balloon, they will pop yours too. We'll bring you down. Bring you down low. You don't look so sure. You're like, I'm not sure what's going to happen. All right. Yeah, give him a hand. Tony, that was impressive. If I ever have a birthday party and you tie some balloons, I'm calling you.
I have a small confession. I used to own a balloon shop.
Those Now, for some reason now I feel like I'm a magician. And I should pull something out. Great job blowing the balloons up. I was particularly impressed with you, Tony.
Yeah.
It's good work. Anybody else impressed with it?
Yeah.
So here's the problem. You guys did a great job blowing up the balloons. But the purpose of a balloon is to float. To rise. Let's see how well your balloons work. Oh no.
No.
Oh my God. Here it is. It's supposed to have a string on it, right? If you put a string on it, man, I am a fat
Get Tony.
I have too much pride to take it. Oh, there we go. All right, are we ready? Here it is. I always see little boys holding them by the string, right? And they ain't gonna rise. Is your life, but they won't rise. They're supposed to float. So then I gotta kind of keep working, right? I want it to be up. If I don't have a ladder, I'd tape it on something up there, keep it up there. Is your life trying to live without sin ever feel a little bit like this? Let's say this balloon represents your spiritual life. And falling is bad. Falling is falling. Falling is sin. Falling is continuing to struggle. So you try to keep it up. Am I the only person whose life sometimes feels this way? Like, and God loves me, right? As long as I can keep it up here. Because I got my stuff together up here. Right? I'm not giving in to temptations. I haven't let a word slip that shouldn't be in my heart or in my head or my mouth. I'm coming to church every week and all that, Wednesday night, Sunday school, all that. I even signed up for Beaches. But deep down, I feel like my life, my spiritual life, it's just a matter of time before it falls again. And then it falls. And once again, I'm this terrible person. I'm still struggling with sin. I'm the one the preacher's talking about how hot hell is, and about how sin will send you there. You're going to bust it wide open. That's me, right? Because I just couldn't keep it up this long. Sometimes we bring our balloons to church, and if the preacher preaches a real good one, I mean a real good one, and he knocked that thing up so high, and it stays up a day or two. You don't even have to think about it. You're like, oh yeah, I'm doing good now. I'll wake up. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to see that. Man, he got me on track. That's what we do. Preachers, man. Hell is hot. You show up. We're going to smack your balloons so high. We're going to smack you too because you're messing up and you're struggling. And you old poor pitiful sinner. And we smack it up a little bit for you. But you know, trying to keep living life without messing up, man, it's exhausting. Isn't it? Don't you get tired of this? And you get real good and fired up. I preach a good message, man. You know, you hear your song. They just said a word in a prayer. You know that was for you. And it feels good and it's easy for a day or two. And then all of a sudden, you walk away and you go back out to life. The week hits you, you go back to work. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? I can't do it. You know what the reason your balloon won't stay up? Because it's not full of the right thing.
Amen.
You blew these balloons up. You did that. You feel this with yourself, and if you haven't figured it out yet, I promise you, you will. Yourself will never be enough to keep your life going in the right direction. You're going to struggle. You're going to mess up. You're going to live life, and every day is going to feel just like this. And sometimes you don't even care if the preacher sends you one of them messages. I missed you at church today. You just can't. I thought some of y'all laughed at that. Come on. Come on. But it's just so tired. And when you get in that mindset, you're a little bit like Paul. He says, I'm trying to do the right thing, I tell you, but it's only a matter of time. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And I'm going to mess up again. And I'm going to feel bad about myself. I'm going to think I'm a failure. I'm the one the preacher's talking about, struggling with sin. So what can I do when I struggle like that? Got another verse I want to share with you from Romans chapter 8. At the end of chapter 7, Paul asks this question. Who can give me freedom from this life that I'm struggling to do the right things in? How in the world can I quit living this way, feeling like such a failure, knowing it's just a matter of time before I struggle and fall and sin again? He asked the question, who can save me from this life of sin? And in Romans 8, you get an answer. There is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. And because you belong to Him, the power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death. Do you know what that means? It means if you're struggling to live your life without sin, if every day of your life feels just like that game with the balloon, it's just a matter of time before I fall again, then you haven't found what can totally set you free. You haven't filled your life yet with the right thing. Because you know what happens when you fill your life with the right thing. Do you know what happens to your life when you fill it with the right thing?
Amen. Amen.
I want to make you a promise. I want to make you a promise. When you find God like you're supposed to find Him, your life doesn't feel like this anymore. You're not worried about the next time you fall because you know that there is something greater than that struggle. When you fill your life, when you fill your heart with the right thing, naturally, your life gets so much easier to live because God's forgiveness and love and God's grace, it doesn't just erase your debts, it transforms who you are. It changes that old heart that says, why do I keep wanting to do the wrong things? If you keep living life like that balloon you're trying to knock up in the air, it's just a matter of time before you sin again, then you haven't seen God like you need to see Him, because I can promise you, when you see God for everything that He is, When you see the price that Jesus paid for you on the cross, you know that He did that to give you freedom. And freedom is not this. Man, that ain't freedom. That's not freedom. That's guilt. That's shame. That's worry. Do you know who died to take that away from you? You're not supposed to live your life that way. And I'm not telling you to live your life any way you want to either. It's all going to be okay. But what I'm saying is, whenever the Holy Spirit fills your heart and you find freedom, this old battle that you used to have with yourself, it ain't that hard anymore. Because God gives you power to overcome those things. And that's what Paul said. That's what he learned. That's what he found out. He said, who can give me power over this kind of life? And when he saw Jesus for all that He was, he found complete freedom.
Amen.
And if you haven't found that yet, you hadn't seen enough. Because there's more.
Amen.
And it don't have anything to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what has been done for you.
Yes, amen. Yes, amen.
You will never hate your sin until you completely love God. And love for God is not something that you can make yourself do. His presence will fill you. And your life becomes an outpour and overflow of what He's done in your heart. And this battle, it ain't a battle no more. It's over. It's over. And you know what happens when you know it's over? Yes! Praise the Lord, it's over. Some of y'all were freaked out, man. I didn't want to look down there. It's crazy. I can promise you two things. One, that you will never be enough. But the second thing is that He already is.
Amen.
I know there's some people today that need freedom. You're tired of it. You're tired of living that life. You're tired of trying to do the right things because it's so hard. You feel exactly like Paul. You're like, there's a part of me that really wants to do the right thing, but for some reason I just keep messing this up. And I want to challenge you to humble yourself before God and say, God, would you fill me with everything that you are? And I can promise you, when you get filled with His presence and His Spirit, you will find freedom like you've never had it before. I promise you will. And you'll leave here fist pumping and clapping and high-fiving and acting crazy, because God will give you that kind of freedom. We're going to start a song there, Scholar. You might turn it down just a little if you get started. And I want you to find freedom. I want your life to rise up. I want what happens in your life to be a natural reaction to God's presence in your heart. Because when that fills in, man, I'm telling you, you are not ever the same again. And I want you to find freedom. And I can promise you, if everyday life is just, man, you ain't seen it yet. You ain't found it yet. And all of the Bible talks, all this talk about, getting a clean heart, being a new creation. God creating me. All of that is Him. Man, it's His work. You just got to let Him get His hands on you. And He does it. He does it. He did it for me. Start clapping again. Y'all be running out of here. Man, God is so good. If you haven't found Him like that, I want you to humble yourself before Him and say, God, here I am. I need you. I'm looking for it. I want what He's been talking about. I want that for my life. I want to find victory. I want to surrender. I want to find freedom, God, that I've never had before. He can do it. I promise He can do it. Would you stand with me?